Hello, welcome to The Cheater's Diary, where we share raw, real-life stories packed with emotion and unforgettable twists. If you love this video, hit the like button and subscribe to join us in spreading these meaningful tales. Now, let's dive into today's journey. You're good-looking, you know that? The words landed like a dropped hammer in a quiet garage, sharp and jarring. Ethan Brooks froze, his flathead screwdriver hovering over the wires. The garage light flickered, then steadied, casting a soft golden glow across the concrete. He glanced up, meeting the eyes of Lauren Mitchell, leaning against the doorframe, her presence as bold as her words. 32. Barefoot, she wore a light blue sundress that hugged her frame with effortless style. Her arms were loosely crossed, her face calm but hard to read, like a half-open book. Ethan blinked, caught off guard. Thanks, he said, his voice caught between surprise and wariness. Compliments weren't new in his line of work. Clients tossed them out quick and casual, but this was different. Her tone wasn't flirty or teasing. It was straightforward, like she was stating a fact. And that threw him more than anything. He wiped his hands on the rag tucked into his tool belt, the rough fabric grounding him. Stepping back from the light switch, he cleared his throat. It was a loose ground wire. Old house, older wiring. I swapped the terminal and added a surge protector. No more flickering. His words were steady, professional, honed over years. Clarity mattered in someone else's home, especially one like this. A 3-car garage, a driveway longer than the block he grew up on, and walls that scream money in every polished detail. Lauren nodded, her eyes on him, not the light. Nice work, she said, her voice low, deliberate. A pause. You always explain things like that? Cool, professional, like you've been at it forever. Ethan hesitated, coiling the old wiring into a plastic bag. His mom's voice echoed in his head. Keep your head down, do the job, don't get mixed up in their world. She'd taught him to solder pipes at 10, to respect the trade and its boundaries. Guess so, he said carefully. Being clear matters, especially in someone else's house. Lauren's lips curved into a small smile. Not flashy, but approving, like she'd seen something unexpected. The silence that followed wasn't heavy, but it had weight, like the air before a summer storm. She straightened, her bare feet silent on the hardwood as she stepped into the garage. Got time for lunch? She asked, her voice as steady as her gaze. Ethan blinked, fingers tightening on the screwdriver. Lunch? His gut screamed no. Never cross lines with a client, never step into their space. He'd learned that watching his mom clean houses for folks who forgot her name by the next week. But Lauren stood there, waiting, not pushing, just asking. Her eyes held no agenda, only curiosity, like she was seeing him for the first time. Appreciate the offer, he said, his voice firm but his chest tight. But I've got another job in an hour. Half true. The next job wasn't urgent, but the unease in his gut was. Lauren tilted her head, studying him. Not with judgment, but with a quiet intensity. Another time then, she said, her tone light but certain. She held out her hand, surprising him again. Thanks for the fix, Ethan. He shook her hand, her palm warm, her grip solid, not the delicate shake he expected from someone in a house like this. As he packed his toolkit, he felt her eyes on him, not predatory, not flirty, just present, like she was memorizing his movements. He slung the bag over his shoulder and walked out, her gaze lingering. His truck roared to life, the AC groaning under the North Carolina sun. As he pulled away from the mansion, the name Mitchell echoed in his head, sharp and unfamiliar, like a brand he couldn't shake. Merging onto Providence Road, he glanced in the rear view, half expecting her to be standing there. She wasn't. By the time he reached his next job, a rundown ranch house with peeling paint and a broken porch step, he'd almost pushed the moment out of his mind. Almost. His phone buzzed as he parked, a text from an unknown number. The preview read, Lauren here, if you change your mind. He stared at the screen, thumb hovering. He didn't open it, not yet. He slipped the phone into his pocket, grabbed his toolkit. Work was his anchor, always had been. Ethan Brooks didn't chase daydreams. Raised by a single mom who worked 2 jobs and still taught him to check voltage, he lived in the real world, showing up early, double-checking connections, getting it right the first time. His hands were steady, his mind focused, his heart locked away, where it couldn't complicate things. But Lauren's voice, those 5 words, You're good looking, you know that? They'd slipped through a crack on the couch in his apartment above a barber shop. Charlotte's street noise muffled by old windows. He pulled out his phone. Lauren's text glowed on the screen. Just her name. 7 words. No emojis. No pretense. He tapped to reply, then stopped. Typed, then deleted. Tried again, then sighed. Maybe it was just lunch. Maybe it was something else. But Ethan had survived 30 years by knowing where lines were drawn, and he wasn't crossing one without a map. He powered off the phone, rolled over, told himself to let it go. But that crack in his armor stayed, a thin fracture, and deep down, he knew he wouldn't forget. Not yet. 3 days passed, her text unanswered. He'd worked a dozen jobs, ceiling fans, bad outlets, a humming transformer in an old duplex, but her name lingered, a quiet buzz under the grind. Standing in the hardware store aisle, surrounded by the smell of cut wood and motor oil, his phone buzzed again. Another text from Lauren. Turkey Club still on the menu. Tomorrow noon. I'll drive. No question mark, no hesitation. Just an invitation as bold as her first words. Ethan stared at the screen. Fluorescent lights humming overhead. His thumb hovered, then typed. All right, he wrote. Send the spot. He hit send before doubt could stop him. Saturday came fast. Too fast. Ethan stood outside the hardware store on 4th Street in a crisp navy button-up and dark jeans. Not too dressy, not too casual. Just right. The Carolina sun was high but mild, the air carrying a spring chill. He adjusted his collar, wiped sweat from his palms, waited. At 12:02, a silver Audi pulled into the lot sleek and quiet. Lauren stepped out barefoot again in a flowy blue dress, her hair pinned up with soft strands framing her face. She smiled, small but real. You always go barefoot? He asked, half grinning. She laughed, a sound as light as the breeze. Only when I'm keeping it real. Ethan stood outside the hardware store, adjusting his collar. The Carolina sun was gentle, the air crisp with spring. He wiped his palms, waiting. At 12:02, a silver Audi glided into the lot, sleek and silent. Lauren stepped out barefoot in a flowy blue dress. Her hair was pinned up, a few strands loose around her cheeks. She smiled, small but genuine. You always go barefoot? Ethan asked, a grin tugging his lips. Lauren laughed, light as the breeze. Only when I'm keeping it real. They climbed into her car. No music, just the hum of wind through a cracked window. The Audi rolled past red brick storefronts, old neighborhoods with sprawling oaks. Ethan glanced at Lauren. She drove easy, hands light on the wheel, a faint smile lingering. Where we headed? He asked. A spot, she said, vague, not fancy, but peaceful. 20 minutes later, they pulled onto a gravel road, stopping in a clearing framed by tall pines. A small river sparkled beyond the trees. A picnic table sat under an old oak. No one else around. Ethan stepped out, scanning the place like he'd check a fuse box. Cautious, observant. Lauren grabbed a brown paper bag from the back seat, walked ahead, her bare feet brushing the grass. Sit, she said, setting the bag on the table. They sat across from each other. Turkey Club sandwiches, cranberry mayo, toasted sourdough. She was right. Damn good sandwich. They ate in silence, the river's murmur and the rustle of leaves filling the space. A jogger passed by, glancing at them with a curious look. Ethan stiffened for a second, sensing the glance went deeper than a hello. He shook it off, took another bite. Lauren broke the quiet. You think I'm weird? Ethan looked up, surprised. What? I asked a stranger to lunch, drove him to the woods, barefoot. He chuckled. Not weird, just unexpected. She tilted her head. That a compliment? It is if you've spent your life being overlooked. She went quiet, her eyes searching him like his words hit something deep. Then she spoke, soft. I don't overlook people, I notice. The silence returned, but lighter now, like a bridge had formed, shaky, but real. Lauren set her sandwich down, wiped her hands. As a kid, I came here with my grandma. She said the river's sound could wash away what people make you carry. Ethan nodded, watching the water dance over stones. Smart woman. She raised me more than my parents did. He didn't pry, letting the stillness answer. They sat under that oak until the light slanted and the breeze turned cool. They talked about small things, favorite snacks, annoying clients, childhood scrapes. Not romantic, not scripted, just honest. For Ethan, who'd always hidden behind work and caution, It felt like a fresh breeze. As they drove back to the city, Lauren behind the wheel, Ethan stared out the window, his heart lighter but still guarded. She stopped at the hardware store. "Thanks for coming," she said. "Thanks for the sandwich," he replied, stepping out. She watched him go, her eyes still that same couch in the apartment above the barbershop, the hum of Charlotte's streets faint through old windows. Ethan checked his phone. Lauren's text glowed. "Next time, you bring the sandwiches." He smiled just a bit, feeling his heart stir. The next week, work swallowed him, fixing outlets, swapping breakers, tracing a buzz in an old Baptist church off Beatty's Ford. But Lauren's voice, her gaze, lingered in his mind. "You're good looking, you know that?" Those words stuck. Wednesday, while replacing a junction box in a downtown duplex, his phone buzzed. "Lauren, you free tomorrow night?" Her voice was warm, steady. He wiped sweat from his brow. "Doing what?" "Dinner, my place. Nothing fancy." Ethan hesitated, fingers gripping his pliers. His mom's words echoed. "Don't let them pull you into their world, Ethan. It's not yours." But Lauren's voice wasn't like those his mom warned about. "All right," he said. "What do I bring?" "Just yourself. And maybe ditch the work boots." He laughed. First time that day. Too late. They're on. Friday night, Ethan stood at Lauren's door, no longer the electrician. He wore a clean navy shirt, jeans, holding a small paper bag. He rang the bell. Lauren opened the door, barefoot, in a soft cardigan and leggings. Her hair was loosely pinned, no makeup, just her. "Hey," she said, voice soft. "Hey," he replied, holding up the bag. "Honey cornbread, store-bought, but I warmed it." She laughed loud. "That's the most southern thing I've heard all week. Come in." Her house smelled of roasted rosemary and garlic, not wealth, just warmth. 2 plates sat on the kitchen island, candles lit, R&B playing low. "Hope you like salmon," she said, setting out glazed fillets and roasted veggies. "I like food someone else cooks." So, yeah. They ate slowly, talked freely. Work, childhood, funny neighbors, worst dates. Ethan shared about getting stuck in a crawl space for 3 hours in July. Lauren laughed so hard she choked on asparagus. She leaned on her elbow, chin in hand, watching him. "You've got a quiet way of stealing the room." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "That a compliment?" "It is. You don't demand to be seen. You just are." He didn't know how to respond, so he didn't. But something in his chest shifted. After dinner, they moved to the living room. Lauren curled into one end of the oversized couch, Ethan at the other, unsure of the rules. She looked over. "You don't have to be so polite. I wasn't raised to slouch in someone else's house." She rolled her eyes. "You're allowed to relax, especially here." The space between them felt different, not just air, but a pull. Then she broke the moment, voice soft. "Ever wonder what people say about us?" "Us? You? Me? This?" She gestured vaguely, but it carried weight. Ethan exhaled slowly. "Probably a lot. Probably none of it good." She nodded, staring out of the window. "My world's loud. Not just noise, but appearances, impressions, expectations. You can't walk through it unnoticed." "I don't aim to be noticed," Ethan said. "But I don't ask permission either." She turned back, eyes sharp. That's what scares them. Later, as she walked him to the door, there was no kiss, no lingering touch, just a quiet moment under the porch light. "Thanks for coming," she said. "Thanks for the food," he replied. As he stepped down, she called after him. "You still owe me sandwiches." He glanced back. "Next time, I'll toast 'em." Next morning, Ethan sat at a diner near his apartment. Black coffee, grits. He opened his phone. A text from Lauren with a photo, a goofy crayon drawing of a sandwich, childlike. Caption, "Inspiration, get it right." He laughed into his coffee. But then, from the booth behind, a voice. Too loud. "That's the guy with the rich lady on Instagram, right?" Ethan froze, hand tightening on his mug. Another voice, chuckling. Just her little project. He didn't turn around, didn't speak. But he felt it. The shift. The invisible line. The reminder not everyone was cheering. Ethan sat in his truck, parked outside his apartment. Rain fell steady, droplets racing down the windshield. He didn't turn on the wipers, didn't start the engine. 15 minutes passed and he hadn't moved. A week since dinner at Lauren's. 5 days since he asked for space. 4 nights of half sleep, 3 missed calls from her, and 1 gnawing regret that wouldn't quit. He'd thought silence would bring peace. It didn't. It brought clarity. He missed her, missed how she said his name, like it carried more weight than 5 letters. Missed how her eyes saw past his work shirt to the man beneath. Missed phone, being seen. Didn't call, didn't text. He drove. Lauren's house appeared. Wide porch, warm lights, wind chimes swaying under the eaves. But something felt off. Quieter. No music from the windows. No shadow behind the curtains. He almost didn't knock, but he did. A few seconds passed. The door opened slowly. Lauren stood there in an oversized hoodie, sleeves rolled to her elbows, a paint smudge on her wrist. No surprise in her face, just something softer, worn, resigned. "Hey," he said, voice rough. "Hey," she replied. "I was in the area." She raised an eyebrow. "From 4th Street." He smiled sheepishly. "All right, I lied." She stepped aside. Coming in, or just checking the humidity? Inside, the air smelled of acrylic paint and coffee. Canvases leaned against the wall. One sat on an easel, half done, a storm in blues and grays like the ocean swallowing a city. Ethan nodded at it. "Yours?" She nodded. "Therapy?" He stepped closer. They look like they've been waiting a long time to exist. Lauren didn't answer, just sat on the floor by the window, hugging her knees. "When I was 14, a teacher said I had talent, then told me not to waste it on urban angst." Her words. Ethan sat across from her. "My guidance counselor told me to stick to electrician work, said college might frustrate me." They both laughed, but it was hollow. "I didn't come to dig up the past," Ethan said, voice low. "Then why'd you come?" He hesitated, hands clenching. "Because I don't want to be the guy who walks away when things get hard, and because I realized this isn't noise." Lauren tilted her head. "What is it then?" "Real, rare, and scary." A pause. Then she whispered, "Same." They sat in the dim light, rain tapping the windows. Finally, Lauren spoke. "There's something I need to show you." She grabbed a thin folder from the bookshelf, handed it to him. Inside were printouts, screenshots, social media comments, blog posts. Some had photos of them at the park. Others were cropped shots of him outside her house, all invasive. One comment burned. "She's just showing off, and he's her puppet." Ethan flipped through slowly, fingers gripping the pages. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked. "Didn't want to pile on." He closed the folder. "How long's this been going on?" "Since the park. Someone at a party recognized you." It spiraled. His jaw tightened. "They know where you live." She nodded. "Upgraded the cameras, got security on speed dial. You should have told me." "Didn't want to scare you off." He met her eyes, sharp. "You think I scare easy?" She looked back, unflinching. "You asked for space, Ethan. I thought you were gone." He exhaled, staring at his hands. "I thought space would protect us, but it just showed me there's no safe distance from them." Lauren nodded, sitting beside him, their knees brushing. "But there's strength in being close." He looked at her, her eyes steady. "I'm here, and I'm not hiding." She took his hand, fingers interlocking. "I can't promise it'll get easier." "I don't want easy. I want real." They sat there, shoulder to shoulder, rain falling outside. No music, no wine, just shared silence, not endured. Lauren leaned her head on his shoulder. "You know, I've been called a lot of things. Too bold. Too cold, too much." He kissed her temple. They missed the best one. "What's that?" "Mine." She smiled, soft but certain. That night, as he left, the porch light stayed on longer than usual. Ethan knew the real fight hadn't started. Next morning, he sat at the diner near his place. Black coffee, grits. A guy in the booth behind spoke too loud. "That's the dude with the rich chick on Instagram, right?" Ethan froze, hand tightening on his mug. Another voice laughing. "Just her project." He didn't turn, didn't speak. But the words cut. Not the words themselves, but the ease of their judgment, the assumption he didn't belong. He slid his phone into his pocket, stared out the window. Last night's warmth met the world's chill. Monday, work pulled him under. Short circuit in Matthews. Bad breaker in Dilworth. A hum in an old church on Beatty's Ford. Each job was a reason not to think. But the diner's words echoed. Her project. Tuesday, his boss at Brooks & Sons Electric pulled him aside before dispatch. "Ethan," he said, arms crossed, "why'd the Simons account pull out?" Ethan blinked. "No idea, sir. Haven't worked there in weeks. They mentioned public image, something online. You do anything I need to know about?" The question wasn't cruel, just cautious, but it stung. "No," Ethan said, jaw tight. "Just did my job." His boss didn't sleep. He sat on his bed's edge, phone in hand, thumb over Lauren's name. He could tell her about the lost client, the whispers, the weight creeping back into his chest, but he didn't. Not yet. Wednesday, Lauren called first. "You free?" Her voice was warm, low. "Define free." "I'm in my driveway with 2 milkshakes and no one to share with." He smiled despite himself. "You bought 2 on purpose, didn't you?" "No comment. Come over." 15 minutes later, he pulled up. Lauren sat on her front steps, barefoot, sipping a paper cup with whipped cream. She handed him the other. "Chocolate peanut butter. Figured you're a classic guy." They sat side by side, listening to the wind through the trees. Then Lauren turned. "I need to ask you something." He nodded slowly. "Go ahead. Did someone say something to you?" He hesitated. "Why?" "Because something's different. You're here, but part of you's pulled back." He stared at the milkshake, fingers tightening. "At the diner, someone called me your project." Lauren exhaled, long and slow. "I'm sorry." "You don't apologize for what people say." "I do when they say it because of me." He turned to her. "It's not your fault. I don't fit their world." "You fit mine," she said, voice firm. "And that's the only world I care about." Silence. Then he spoke. "Lost a client. Simon's estate. After that video of us hit the internet." Lauren stiffened. "What video?" "Someone snapped us at the park. It spread." "Damn it," she whispered, standing, pacing a few steps. "I'm so sick of this. Sick of people thinking they decide who I can be with, who you get to be." Ethan stood slowly. "Then maybe we take a break." The words hit like a punch. Lauren turned. "What?" "Not from each other, from the noise." Her eyes hurt, but didn't beg. "Okay," she said softly, "if that's what you need." "It's not forever," he said. They stood in silence, 2 people caught between care and caution. Then Lauren stepped forward, placed her hand on his chest. "You're not a project, Ethan Brooks. Not small, not temporary, not a symbol or a stunt." He looked at her, her eyes glassy. "Then why's it feel like I'm always proving it?" She didn't answer with words, just leaned in, her forehead touching his. They stood there, still, as the rain fell outside. Ethan stood in the studio, staring at Lauren's latest canvas. Bold black strokes on a red wash, like a fire smoldering. He felt the weight of the day. That morning, a call came from Angela Carter, estate manager for the Hendersons, one of Charlotte's old money families, their name etched on library plaques. "Mr. Brooks," she said, voice sharp, "we need an urgent fix at the Myers Park estate. Can you make it today?" Ethan sat up. "I'll be there by 11. Something in her tone felt off, like she knew something he didn't. At 10:55, he pulled through the estate's gated drive. White columns, manicured lawn, a garage bigger than his apartment. Angela, early 60s, in a pale gray suit and pearls, met him at the door. "Thanks for coming," she said, brisk. "The issue's in the upstairs sunroom. Chandelier shorts out when it rains. 3 techs tried. None fixed it." Ethan nodded. "I'll do my best, ma'am." He followed her up the oak staircase, toolkit in hand, boots silent on the polished floor. The chandelier was antique, wiring delicate, housing rusted. He tested voltages, traced faults, focused. Footsteps approached. He didn't notice until a voice spoke. "Well, this is a surprise." Ethan turned. Michael Reed stood in the doorway, arms crossed. Partner at Reed and Langston Law, city historical board member, and Lauren's ex-fiancé. They locked eyes, the air tight as a live wire. "Didn't know you moonlighted as an electrician," Reed said, voice cool. Ethan kept his tone even. "I own the business." Reed stepped inside, eyes narrowing. Lauren always had a taste for unconventional projects. Ethan didn't flinch, hands steady on his pliers. "I'm not her project." Reed smirked. "Then what are you?" "Her rebellion, a dig at her dad. You're temporary, Brooks. You know that." Ethan's jaw clenched, but he kept working, cutting a frayed wire, swapping a corroded connector. "I build things that last," he said, not looking up, "including myself." Reed chuckled, then left. Ethan finished in silence. Downstairs, Angela waited with a signed check. You're efficient, she said, smiling. Better than the last crew. I'll call again. Ethan nodded, stepped into the blinding afternoon light. Reed's words echoed, but they didn't shake him like they might have a year ago. They sparked something. Resolve. That night, he told Lauren at the studio. She stood tall, eyes narrowing. What did he say? Enough. She crossed her arms. Want me to handle it? Ethan shook his head. Number, but I've got a question. She waited. If it came down to your world or mine, sat on the workbench thinking, I don't believe I should have to choose. But if they draw a line, I'll burn it down. Ethan stepped closer. They already drew it. She met his gaze, steady. Then we build on the ashes. 2 days later, Lauren sent an open letter to the Charlotte Chronicle, a respected local paper, titled When Love Crosses Lines. It didn't name names, but didn't need to. Some see what I've built with Ethan Brooks as rebellion. Rebellion means destruction. We're building equity, presence, partnership. If that makes people uncomfortable, they should ask why. By noon, the piece was shared over 2,000 times. Ethan didn't post, didn't comment, but his inbox filled. Support, job requests, opportunities. One stood out from Angela Carter. Subject, Henderson's canceling future services with Brooks Works. No explanation. He replied, Curt. Noted, thanks. He turned to Lauren, brushing paint onto a new canvas. Lost a client. She looked up, unfazed. We'll gain 10 more. That night, on the studio's rooftop, Charlotte's lights sparkling below, Ethan took her hand. Reed called me temporary. She leaned into him. Then let's outlast him. Spring hit hard. Rain pounding Charlotte for 5 days straight. Streets flooded, power flickered. Ethan barely slept, running emergency calls. Elderly folks with no lights, single moms with dead fridges, apartment managers begging for panel resets. His boots were soaked, his back ached. On the 6th day, a different storm hit. A text from Jamal, his apprentice. Boss, you see the article? Ethan frowned. What article? His phone buzzed again. 3 numbers, same headline. Local hero or social climber. The rise of Brooks Works under Lauren Mitchell's wing. A conservative local blog. A smear job. Old photos from Ethan's early jobs. Twisted quotes from Lauren's letter. Their story spun as a scheme. Him chasing wealth. Her flaunting progressivism. A grainy photo of him with an elderly black client captioned, Marketing or Manipulation. Ethan's stomach churned. He didn't finish reading, just shut off his phone, grabbed his keys, drove to the studio. Lauren was there, paint on her cheek, wearing his hoodie. She saw his face, didn't ask. It's out, isn't it? He nodded. I'm sorry, she whispered. You didn't write it. But I made it possible, putting us in the spotlight. Ethan rubbed his face, breathing hard. They didn't come for us. They came for me. Turned everything we built into a punchline. Lauren stood, voice firm. Number they tried, but we're still standing. He looked at her, eyes tired but raw. They're dragging my name through the mud. I can take that. But can we take this? Silence. Then she asked, voice bare. Do you want to stop? No threat, no fear, just permission. Ethan sat on the bench, elbows on knees. I used to think I could outwork judgment. Be good enough, useful enough. They'd let me in. I was wrong. They don't care what I fix, only what I represent. Lauren sat beside him, shoulder to shoulder. What do you represent? He met her eyes. Disruption. She laughed softly. Then you're not alone. Rain tapped the windows. Lauren's phone buzzed. An email from an NPR Charlotte producer. Subject, we'd love to interview you both. Ethan stared. Think this helps? Lauren just smiled. The interview aired the next week. 15 minutes on resilience, partnership, redefining success. Ethan spoke plainly, eyes steady, hands clasped. I'm not here for headlines. I want to build things that hold up in storms. And I found someone with the same blueprint. When the host asked Lauren about building with someone from a different world, she said, we build with what we've got. He brought his hands. I brought the space. The backlash didn't vanish, but support roared louder. Church groups, local business owners, elderly clients sending handwritten notes. A woman said her son cried hearing the interview. First time in a year. The blog tried a second hit piece. No one shared it. The narrative shifted. They didn't break. They told their own story. Ethan stood outside their new house on Belmont Avenue, keys in hand. Not flashy. White siding, red door, cracked driveway needing a fix. But theirs. He unlocked the door, stepped inside. The floor creaked. Primer's scent lingered. Sunlight poured through wide windows, pooling on the hardwood like a promise. On the kitchen counter, 2 mugs, his and Lauren's. Next to them, paint swatches labeled dining room colors. Lauren was in the back room, barefoot, kneeling before a blank wall. A pencil sat between her fingers. A faint line sketched across the drywall. Ethan tilted his head. "What's this?" She turned, eyes bright. "Planning." "For what?" "A mural. Not sure yet, but I think it starts her temple. You know, this still feels wild." "What does?" "You. Me. Here. Together. Still standing." Lauren turned, serious. "Not wild. Earned." They stood there, quiet, in the hum of their new home. No storm, no spotlight, just the start of something new. 2 weeks later, they dedicated not the house, but the studio. The old storefront on a quiet street was now Mitchell and Brooks' studio. One side held tools, shelves, wiring diagrams. The other had canvases, brushes, community tables where kids learned to paint on Saturdays. A simple wooden sign hung on the door, Mitchell and Brooks' studio. Dedication day, people came, old clients, new friends, neighbors, teachers. Jamal's grandma brought lemon pound cake wrapped in wax paper. A kid, Marcus, maybe 10, ran around scribbling on a chalkboard. Ethan watched him, remembering himself at that age. Quiet, more into fixing things than playing. Marcus ran up, handed him a drawing, a light bulb raised like a sun. "For you," he said, then darted off. Ethan held the paper, his chest warm. Lauren took the mic. No script, no notes, just her, speaking true. There's a difference between being given something and being trusted to build it. This place didn't just happen. We laid every plank, screwed every hinge, painted every corner. We built it knowing some days the world would ask us to choose between love and peace, truth and safety. We chose each other, and we'll keep choosing. She stepped down. Ethan stepped up, facing the crowd. Elders wiping eyes, kids spinning in fallen leaves, Lauren watching him like he held a future worth fighting for. "I used to think I'd only ever own a toolbox," he said. "Turns out I get to carry something heavier." He paused. Hope. The room stilled, then clapped. Not loud, but real. That night, back at the house, they stood on the porch, wrapped in one blanket, watching the wind pull golden leaves from the trees. Ethan whispered, "I still can't believe it." Lauren leaned into him. "Then, let me remind you, we didn't just survive. We built. Under the autumn sky, in a city that once tried to draw lines between them, 2 people stood together, unshaken, unbought, unbroken. They didn't just rewrite the story, they claimed it. The next week, Brooks' works grew, not in leaps but roots, slow and lasting. Not from billboards, but from Ethan's name, his work, his word. He still took every job himself, showed up early, shirt clean, greeting clients with "yes ma'am" or "no sir," even if they were half his age. But now, people didn't see a stranger. They saw the guy who stayed. Sunday mornings became their ritual. Ethan brought breakfast from the corner diner, still warm. Lauren brewed coffee in her French press, swearing it tasted alive. They sat by the studio window, knees touching, sunlight spilling over their legs like a slow river. One morning, Lauren turned to him. "I've got an idea." Ethan grinned. "That usually means paint or trouble." "This time both," she said, handing him a tablet. On the screen, a website mock-up, Brooks Works, a logo, a bolt and a fist. Tagline, "Built by hands, driven by heart." Ethan blinked. "This real." "Worked on it in my spare time. Branding, copy, visuals. You said you wanted to go independent. I made a blueprint." He stared, stunned. "You did all this?" "Colors, words, even fonts. You're a Times New Roman guy. Trust me." He went quiet. "Why?" She leaned forward, elbows on her knees. "When I see something good, I don't wait for someone else to say so. I invest." His chest tightened. Not painful, just full. "What do you want from me?" "To build with you. Not for you, not around you, with you." By week's end, Ethan filed for a business license. Lauren helped design flyers. They printed the first batch at a local shop. Saturday, they walked neighborhoods, taping flyers to light poles, slipping them into mailboxes. An old man with a cane squinted at one. "You Brooks?" "Yes, sir." He nodded. "Good hands matter. My son hired some guy who couldn't tell a wire from a noodle. I'll call you." Ethan grinned the whole block, but nothing grows without pushback. Friday, Ethan arrived at a South Charlotte colonial, ivy-wrapped pillars. Simple job, check a faulty circuit in the master bath. He rang the bell. A woman answered, suit crisp, eyeing his uniform. You're from Brooks Works? Yes, ma'am. Ethan Brooks. She narrowed her eyes. You're the one on that blog, with Lauren Mitchell. Ethan didn't answer. She crossed her arms. She's a friend of my husband's firm. You think this little act lasts? Ethan's voice stayed steady. Honest work, but made a call loud enough for him to hear. Yeah, he's here. Told you, she's playing some game. Ethan didn't react. He fixed the circuit, wrote the invoice, left without a word. In his truck, windows down, spring air cooling his face, his phone buzzed. Lauren. Lunch at the studio. He replied, on my way. Bring your paint hands. At the studio, he told her. Her jaw tightened, but she didn't explode. She flipped over an old canvas, black and white swirls, stitched with gold thread. Painted this 2 years ago, she said. After my ex-fiancé said I wasn't relatable enough for his clients. Almost trashed it. Then realized broken doesn't mean disposable. She looked at him. You're not a phase, Ethan, not a scandal, not something people whisper about until the next news cycle. He stepped closer, pulled her in. You're not my savior or my shield. Don't want to be. I want to be your damn partner. He smiled. Then let's keep building. Brooks Works grew, slow and steady. Ethan trained 2 apprentices from the neighborhood. Lauren launched a design studio in the same space. They hosted monthly fix-it days, free repairs for seniors, single parents, veterans. The whispers didn't stop. Neither did they. They built a bridge, a blueprint, a quiet rebellion against everything that said they couldn't.